Welcome back to another Planet Coaster 2 Early Access video. Today I'm going to be building a modern gen Vekoma coaster. It's been really exciting to find all of these new coaster types in the game. So I thought I'd make this video today to go through what it's like to build one of these new gen Vekoma coasters. We have the new rotating coaster, which is the same coaster type as Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Epcot, which I might also do another video on, so let me know if you'd like to see that in the comments. But today I'm going to be doing the launched Vekoma coaster, that being the Vector 4-seater sit-down. So I'm going to place the coaster down over here, and one thing I have noticed is that there is actually stuff going on in the station now. So we have these trim brakes around the track, which I think is really nice. It would be good if we could get some drive tyres on this as well. I know a couple of the other stations, if I can just pick a random coaster, I think a couple of the other stations do have drive tyres on the track too. Yeah, so the Intamin one does. So something like that on this Vekoma one would be quite nice as well. And one thing I have noticed with this coaster model that I would really like to be changed in the future is that currently you can't change it so that there are more cars. So at the moment there's just 2 cars per train, and you can't make that go up, that's just 1 or 2. So even if I increase the size of the station, at the moment we can't change the car length from above 2. Which in real life, obviously you can get the much longer versions of these trains, so I don't know why this isn't an option at the moment, but hopefully that gets fixed. Along with the actual air gates as well, these do not line up anywhere near close to the train. You've got 2 people coming in across there and there, but for some reason the back car, the 2 people are across here. I don't know whether that'll change if I delete part of the station. Nope, that just makes it worse, never mind. But yeah, I hope that gets fixed in the future. Right, let's get into the actual layout of the coaster. I do want to try and do quite a cool layout with this, so I am going to have the actual launch track section not completely flat like this, so it kind of angles down, and then we're going to, I think, go into some sort of inversion. I might do it quite like the actual Top Gun model which this ride is based off, so it can go up like this, although I need to put my banking offset on. I'm building in track pieces that are way too big. I'm probably going to keep it in 6 meters, so 4 meter might be a little bit extreme. So it'll be interesting here to find out how well the custom supports are going to cope with it, because they have had a bit of a redo, which is nice, but it'll be interesting to see how they cope with some of the strange angles I'm trying to make with this coaster type. So that's sort of the first element I'm going for, but it does need a little bit of smoothing, so we can use the new smoothing tools. I'm going to put it onto smoothest level 5 and smooth it backwards first. I do love this forwards and backwards smoothing. I'm really glad they added it into the game. Makes smoothing a lot easier. Look at that, it's already pretty smooth. And you can change it as well, where when you highlight certain sections of track you can change what it's actually smoothing. So you can change it to just smooth everything, smooth the banking, smooth the height, and smooth the turn. It's really clever how that works. Although I do not really understand why we need a construction mode and an edit mode, why the smoothing tool can't just be in here as well. It does get a bit confusing when you're building something like this and then want to switch back between modes. It's, yeah, I don't really get that. But that is our first element of the coaster, which I do really like. I'm going to turn off, I think, most of the supports for now. Actually, no, we'll leave them on because I do want to see how this coaster interacts with the in-game supports that it's going to generate, because we can't actually generate our own supports yet, like with custom supports. So I do hope, again, that is a feature that gets added soon. Then once we've reached the top of this element, I'm going to crank it down and then level it out so that we get that nice rolling turn. And I will go back and edit the top of that because it isn't exactly the same as I want it to be. You'll have to let me know if you like these coaster style building videos, because I'll definitely do a lot more of them in the future if you're enjoying them. There we go, that's sort of what I want to do for our first element. I'm just going to fix this so it's actually parallel with that and sort out the top of the profiling. I've also just noticed as well that when it comes to all of this blank space down here, to change whether you want the angle snap on, you have to go into the settings toggle at the end and then turn it off here. Whereas in Planet Coaster 1, pretty much all of these options that I have to scroll down to get to now were just here. So I don't really get that, and I do wish we could just drag that down and change it all so that all of the settings were in one place without having to navigate through all of these menus. Especially, and even the test thing was up here, so without having to navigate through all of these menus, that would be much more helpful. There we go, I've fixed the top hat mostly. It's still a tiny bit wonky, but that's fine. I really like the transition you can get on this, and I have to say the smoothing to get this like angled right, so much easier than in Planet Coaster 1. It just works so perfect. Look at the graphics as well. You get like the little shines off the track pieces. Just the coaster building and the graphics like leap from Planet Coaster 1 to Planet Coaster 2 is absolutely mad. It's really crazy what they've done to this game. It's so cool. I mean, that doesn't look too bad. If that one was like slightly angled down, it might look a bit better, but yeah, we can go back and change that afterwards. Like I said, it is unfortunate that we don't currently have custom supports in the game. Otherwise I would have custom supported this entire coaster. As you know, I normally do for every coaster I've made pretty much this year in Planet Coaster 1, but yeah, that's where we'll leave it for now. As for the next element, I do want something quite sort of unique to New Gen Vekoma for how it transitions into the next element. What's like stereotypical Vekoma that we could put in? You need some sort of like maybe step up so you get a bit of airtime. That's what I'm thinking. So if I bring this piece up here, something that gets you a bit of airtime, because the New Gen Vekomas have quite a lot of airtime, which is always good. We love airtime, and I'm going to crank it round slightly. Like this, and it's going to pull upwards into like a downwards Immelman. I'm sort of going for the theme of the transitions and movement of the coaster with this, as like the trains are like a plane. So I was thinking some sort of aerial plane style movements just for the like angles of the track and everything. And doing something like that, it's working quite nicely. I mean, there's most coaster elements in general, like Immelmans and stuff, are named after like plane maneuvers, which I find really interesting. So I think that could work out quite nicely. And then if I get this mostly back parallel with the station again, just in terms of it looks quite nice. And then I think once I've corrected this, I'm going to do like a really low to the ground inversion, a little bit like the one on Siren's Curse, because it's sort of like a really high speed elongated Mosasaurus roll. I just think it looks really cool, and with the smoothing in this game it should be really easy to perfect. I have to say, although the in-game supports that it's generating aren't perfect, they aren't bad either. There's some pretty convincing ones. Like these look quite nice. They are pretty Vekoma looking as well, like in terms of accuracy. I would like to see some flanges on these, like to actually connect it, because obviously that wouldn't be all one piece in real life. But these supports going around here, they don't look too bad. They actually look quite nice. So I'm going to give this a little bit more of a smooth, just to make sure that the profile and everything's okay. So I'm going to put it on probably a little bit lower. But I'm just going to smooth everything. So I've selected how many pieces. That's 3 track pieces. Smooth it a little bit backwards first. I'm going to take it forwards through the entire layout. And then once you get to the end, it kicks you off. I'm going to do it again, but with a slightly lower one, because I don't want to interrupt too much of that profiling that I've made, because I'm quite happy with the way that the profiling looks. Yeah, and you swoop down here. There is a bit of a bump in this turn, so if I just go into edit mode instead of the construction mode, that's going to be quite a steep learning curve, I think. So I can bring this down, so I don't want that to bump out too much. There we go. I like the way that looks. The turn and like the profiling of that looks really nice. And it flattens off here, goes through that really nicely profiled roll, flattens out at the bottom here, and then goes up into whatever next element we have. But I think we should probably take a ride on this. We'll test the launch first to make sure that it is actually powerful enough to send the train where we want it to. Vekoma launches in general normally are quite powerful. So if I go into the settings down here, again, I don't like having to scroll through this. It should just take up the rest of the screen. There's some room down here. But I think if I go into maybe 46 miles an hour, like 45, we'll see how that works. I have put this in meters per second, so I don't know why it is still in feet per second, but we'll test the coaster to see whether it actually makes it over this element. Listen to this launch noise as well. Oh, never mind, maybe the launch noise is broken. So it flies up into there and rolls back, so it's not going fast enough. So we do need to increase the speed of that launch a little bit. I have just had a quick look in the settings actually, and we can't change the edit mode. We can't change the friction settings for the coasters just yet, which is a little bit unfortunate. I would like the ability to be able to do this, so hopefully that gets sorted soon. Where's the test mode menu gone? To click edit to be able to test the coaster once you've clicked on it. Never mind. Slightly altered the launch and it's now making its way around at pretty decent speed. So it goes to the top hat, goes down here, up into that airtime hill. Really nicely profiled inversion. You get a nice hang time at the top of there as well. You get that really low to the ground inversion and it just flies off at the end. So that is the first part of our layout. And by now, if you've been following my channel for a while, you should know that once I've done a significant enough part of the coaster layout, I do like to put the ending in, just so you can kind of gauge where this is going to go, how much space it's going to take up, and then once you actually get to the end of the ride as well. I see it quite a lot in Planet Coaster 1 where the actual coaster will like jut to the side or down before it enters the brake run, because the brake run has been placed right at the end of the coaster, whereas if you place it now, it completely eliminates that. So I'm going to put a section of, I was going to say a section of drive tyre, but I don't think we actually have drive tyres on this coaster model for some reason. Interesting. So I'm going to put a 4 metre section of just normal tracking, which I will turn the catwalk on for. Then I will put in a block section so that we can run multiple trains. I think it's probably only going to be about maybe 8 metres long, because the train is quite small. Then after that I will put in another section of track just here, which I will angle up ever so slightly, but I need to turn off the angle snap for that just a little bit. And then I'm going to put in some brakes. So brakes option for this coaster, we have friction brakes, magnetic brakes and trim brakes. So I do want the magnetic brakes for this, and the reason why it's angled up as well is so that while it's braking, it actually makes its way back into the block section without having to use drive tyres or anything. As for the rest of the layout, I was thinking some sort of airtime hill, turn off the catwalk, some sort of airtime hill that comes up into this, so that could be quite a nice feature. And then if we turn it round here, obviously this is going to be at the end of the ride, it's going to have much less speed, so you can have like quite a few intense final elements that I think could be quite nice. And I'm going to put that around there and leave it before I do the rest of the layout. And as for the rest of the layout, once we've done this high speed turn, I do want to turn it back around over here, so I'm going to delete these, and it's going to exit this inversion whilst still being banked, I think, so I'll probably delete that one. Leave it a little bit banked, and then I can start to curl it upwards so it goes over the entrance. It could actually come into a stall here. It's like a really nice stall. Over that launch section from earlier. Very nice long profile stall. Yeah, that looks nice. And then I can bring it down here. It's got some pretty decent speed still here, so before it comes into the brake run, I'm going to let a little bit more of that speed get eaten up by some more layout. Then I'm just going to bring it into an airtime hill that goes over part of the station, part of the brake run just here. Be a nice sharply profiled airtime hill. To think this is getting a little bit later on in the ride, so you don't want really large elements because it's going to have less speed. So with that less speed, if you use smaller elements, it still keeps up that same intensity. There you go. That is some like really nice Vekoma profiling right there. I do actually need some space for the transfer track to slide over, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this part I made earlier and change the direction of it completely, which is probably what I should have done earlier. If I delete this, bring in a 4 meter section of track. So if I delete these two, put in a transfer track just here, so that'll just have your 8 meter section for one of the trains. I'll probably do them as the same piece of track for the transfer track, so you can fit 2 trains on there and connect that back up. There you go, so then this piece would just slide over. Obviously this support would be altered, but because there's no custom supports in the game yet, I can't custom support this. So if there was custom supports in the game, I would have custom supported this section here so that it didn't interact with any area down here, and that support would have been there, but since I can't do that at the moment, we'll just have to pretend that still can switch over. Now, we need to get this section back to connect up here, so what I think I'm going to do is switch this round and have like some sort of really nice twist motion in the track. Get some really nice like turns and fast-paced elements towards the end, and that's going to come around here, sort of like a little cheetah hunt section towards the end. I know I use that term quite a bit, but I do really love that twister section on cheetah hunt. It's so fun. Now I've got this little twister section here, then I'm going to crank it round, come into a bit of an off-axis airtime hill sort of thing, and I can give this a bit of a smooth as well by making that airtime hill a little bit more pronounced. smooth it into the bricks. There you go. And that is our layout. I'm going to go through and do a little bit of a smoothing pass, and just to make sure all of the profiling is correct, and then I will show you how I'm going to nicely landscape it to make it all look pretty. I thought I would just show you how I smooth my stalls as well, because I had quite a few people asking the last time I made one. So this section of track here is the completely 180 degrees upside down section of track, so I'm just going to smooth that without going in any direction and just smooth it generally. The supports for that actually do look quite good, and then the entry to it, I want to make sure that I'll select about 3 pieces of track and turn that down a bit. I do want to make sure that I never really smooth beyond this point, because this track section here will be the transitioning piece into this one, and I want this to be completely upside down and stay locked. So if I smooth backwards from here, especially to get in the exit of that roll, really get that in all nice and smooth, and I can smooth forwards again, really bringing that up to just before the upside down section. I'm going to put it on backwards again, smooth that in, and that should look really nice. The train's coming through now, so we can actually test how that's going to look. You can see it rocket through the roll there and up into the stall. It goes through at a really nice speed, and then just profiling the exit of that stall as well, we can do it the same. So I'm going to make the coaster run on 2 trains. So if I get this block section here, I'm going to turn the block section target speed down to about 6 maybe, and have the deceleration rate on, I don't know what feet per second means. I've put it in meters per second, but for some reason it's still in feet per second. The actual magnetic brakes themselves, I do want these to be target speed of about 8, and then you do want that to be relatively high. So yeah, there you go. So it does slow it down enough to go through that block section and then back into the station. Now to add another train onto the track, I have just split these between trims and block sections on there, just with how the game works. Then if you go into the actual coaster itself on the operations mode, put it into block sections, and you can just add a second train there. And there you go. This now has 2 operational trains. I'm going to change some of the colours a bit and then get back to you so we can do some landscaping. There we go, I've changed the colours and now it started raining for some reason. I wish you could control the weather, and now I actually want to build a little bit of a station for this. So I'm just trying to find the build on station menu. Align scenery with station, so this obviously creates the grid that's on the station. And I will just add some wall pieces of some brick around the bottom of it. I'm trying to build this coaster and it keeps being stormy and rainy. I don't know what's going on. Is it snowing? I can't really tell. I would really like a way to be able to change the weather in the game. You can have a look about what the weather's going to be, but you can't change it, which is annoying. So I'll get back to you once it stops throwing it down. So I'm going to use some of the terrain paint that I mentioned in one of my last building episodes. I'm just going to go around some of the supports and just like put some like sand and basically just dead grass. This happens quite a lot in real coasters, obviously, where the sun can't get to the grass that's around the supports on some of the tracks, so this would just naturally happen. So there you go, so it looks a little bit more realistic. Then I'm going to turn down the intensity and the hardness a little bit and just do like a general patchy grass overlay with some of the other paint tools that we've got. Just makes it look a tiny bit more realistic. Now what I'm going to do is use the scenery brush and create my own brush to make some landscaping for the area. So if I go into the nature and then into bushes, we can change it for this biome as well, which is pretty cool. So nature region, we are in tropical at the moment, so you can choose all the different tropical bush types. There we go, you can just save it and then I can start placing it all around. That is way too much at the moment, so I'm going to turn down the intensity to maybe like 10%. We can just scatter a few of these around. You can put it to avoid scenery, which I don't know whether that isn't classing that as the coaster. So I can just scatter these around the side of the area. There you go, and once you've got your ride looking a little bit nicer, I'm going to use one of the brush tools and go around and put some of the large trees that are in this biome around it as well. So we want the tropical trees because that's the biome that we're in. You can have large trees and small as well. So I'm going to turn up the intensity a little bit and the size. I'm going to do like a general tree pass around the outside of the area. Look how quick and easy that was, and I'm going to get the large trees turn the intensity up a little bit and do the same just to create a nice border around this ride so it looks nice and immersive. And then I am going to also get the terrain paint that I was using earlier, probably some of the pebbles, and turn down the intensity and harshness a little bit. Just go over some of this area just to make it look a bit different in some areas. I'm not going to make the whole thing this colour, just little patches to make it really blend in. And then I will also add a bit of a water feature as well. So if I get in the terrain, do push down a little bit, and then if I flatten to foundation, I can create a bit of a pool around this area, sort of like that. And then I'm going to also use the smooth tool to smooth some of those edges. Use the paint tool again, really turn down the intensity to blend some of the edges of the pool. And I want to paint the pool floor, so I'll probably go for a rough rock. I still need to experiment a little bit more with the difference between like the intensity and the hardness of these tools. I think the hardness is the softness of the edge. There we go. And then I can add in our clear water, which you can put right up until the edge there, which is nice as well. Obviously, if I had custom supports, I would go back and put the footers in so that the footers were actually out of the water, because you wouldn't normally have concrete footers underwater, but I can't do that currently. Interesting as well how you actually have to delete the water before you can alter the terrain of a water source. It's definitely something I'm kind of not really a fan of, because the way that you could interact with the water and the terrain before was actually really helpful, so maybe if they could work on that in the future, that'd be nice. There we go, there's the coaster, it's now all finished. I really enjoyed this build episode. It's nice creating these little themed areas and the coasters and stuff. Definitely nice as well to experiment with all of the new tools that we have in the game, such as the scenery brush and the coaster builder itself, and all of these new coaster types as well, which has been really fun to be able to do. Definitely not the prettiest coaster in terms of supports. I really want custom supports to be added to this game, and I hope that they are soon. But yeah, this is the coaster. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one, and let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more stuff like this in the future. Goodbye.